Okay. There's my audience members. My dad and his partner Ken. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a pretty widespread topic that a lot of people don't really fully understand. It's human immunodeficiency virus. Fun fact about it real quick, it actually started out in chimpanzees. It was called the simian immunodeficiency virus, and it transferred to humans after the hunters were hunting the chimpanzees for the meat. They were ingesting it, and the virus got in the system. That was back in the 1800s. So we can stop blaming the gays for spreading HIV and start blaming the chimps, pretty much. But HIV research really didn't start probably until the beginning of 1980s when a group of 5 gay men in LA came down with a rare lung disease. And that was sent over to the CDC, where the CDC had also gotten a lot of the pretty much similar cases of the rare lung disease, plus cancer and other opportunistic diseases that take advantage of lower immune systems. And it became like a widespread thing, so the government started doing some more research on it. And then finally in 1983, 2 scientists, one here in the States and then one in France, they finally found the actual virus of HIV that causes AIDS, which is what the CDC was giving the group of people that had those infections. They were kind of describing their illness as having acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And those 2 scientists, the one here in the States, the one in France, those are the ones that actually discovered the actual virus of human immunodeficiency virus that actually causes the AIDS. So after the discovery, the HIV and AIDS started to become more widely known here in the States. The government started putting together more programs and organizations dedicated to finding more about the virus, more treatments, prevention, and just making it more widely known for the public. But along with that, though, the propaganda with it, it kind of gave a stigma on certain minorities, especially gay men, of course. And it really didn't give the right public attitude that I was looking for. And around 1985, a boy, he was 13 years old, he was diagnosed with HIV, and his was actually because he had hemophilia and he got a blood transfusion, but it was contaminated blood. And with that situation, he became a really outspoken kind of person, an outspoken advocate for HIV patients, because it wasn't just gay men anymore. It was pretty much anyone can get HIV now. And that was a really big deal back then because the majority of the public believed that it was just a gay disease, and that was it. But with Ryan White, the 13-year-old boy who contracted HIV because of his blood transfusion, he became like one of the advocates that finally made the public click with the idea that HIV is no longer just a gay disease, anyone can contract that. And so along with that, there's a chart in the PowerPoint that shows the different demographics of who can actually, or the different percentages of the demographics that contracted HIV in 2010. While gay men are the predominantly larger percentage of that, heterosexual couples are also very prone to getting that disease, along with injection drug users who share needles. So after lots of research over the next few years, the CDC and the National Institute of Health, they provided more information about transmission and the development of HIV. And so along with that, they finally put out more information about how it's been transmitted, which is mainly through unprotected sex, vaginally or anally, and using shared needles, of course, and also during childbirth if the mother has HIV and she can pass it along to her child, either through childbirth or breastfeeding as well. The early stages of HIV include flu-like symptoms, and that's considered the acute HIV stage, where it's during the first 2 months when the person actually has the HIV virus in them, and it's the body's way of fighting off the virus. So they'll experience a lot of flu-like symptoms, fever, nausea, body aches, things like that, like night sweats as well. and that's just the body's way of trying to fight off that disease. After that period, though, it'll kind of go down to like a hibernation, but where the person won't feel any symptoms of it. But during that time, though, it's still spreading throughout the body and infecting the other cells and getting rid of the white blood cells, which are for the immune system. Excuse me. A lot of times there are no symptoms involved with HIV, and a lot of those patients, that's why it's very important to go get checked if you ever have unsafe sex. Because for a lot of people, there are no symptoms that they can compare it to and say, hey, there might be something wrong with my body, but it's not always the case. So after they found like the transmission and the development of HIV, the CDC and the NIH, they started putting out more information about the treatment and prevention for it. So with the treatment, there's no cure currently for HIV or AIDS, but they have a new drug. It's called PrEP. It's pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is a new medicine that's designed to prevent the body from contracting HIV. It's not 100% like foolproof on it, but it does help lower the transmission rate for it. And there's also antiretroviral therapy for patients who are diagnosed with HIV. And those drugs are used in combination with a couple other drugs where it actually lowers the rate of HIV being transferred in the body. So it decreases the spread of the HIV in the actual body, but it also helps the HIV positive individual live longer, live healthier, live happier, and they don't have to worry about it as much. And then also with preventing the HIV, like I said, they had the pre-exposure prophylaxis, and then as always, though, use condoms when you're having sex. That's the best way to not contract HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. But HIV and AIDS can be pretty frightening when you first hear about it, just because you hear mainly what the public sees and what the public stigmatizes HIV to be. And a lot of times it is still just that gay men get it. And a lot of times people are just assume that by having gay sex, you're automatically going to have HIV, which is not the case. But like I said, it's pretty frightening when you actually first hear about it. But after learning more about the research and the advancements in the treatments, it's not as scary. There are new drugs out there that help help decrease the spread of it in your body. There's also a lot of drugs out there that prevent the spread of HIV. So the advancements in the treatments and the research have really come a long way since they actually started in the 1980s. And now it's just gotten to a point where it's just not such a big deal as it was back then, since we do have all these new advancements in the drugs and medication for it. And it's just with those developments, though, it's really helped stop the spread of the disease and also help individuals with HIV live long, happy, and healthy lives. And so to be safe, of course, arm yourself with the knowledge of the disease. And as always, just wrap it up. You guys have a good night. Thanks. Bye.